You could be capable, respected, and outwardly successful, and still feel your body carrying a constant edge of tension. This episode explores what happens when achievement keeps working on the outside and something deeper inside asks for attention. This is the Your Next Success podcast, and I am your host, Dr. Carolyn Sengel. I am a life-first career coach and strategist on a mission to normalize questioning your career, because I believe each of us is made on purpose for a purpose only we can fulfill. The longer we live out of alignment with who we are, what we do best, and why we are here, the more we miss out, and the more the world misses out on what only we can give. The Your Next Success podcast is where we explore how to build a career that truly fuels your life. We talk about self-discovery, smart job search strategies, professional growth, and you will hear stories from people who have navigated big career transitions themselves, so you can create a life-first career and become your own version of authentic success, one that is aligned, meaningful, and truly yours. My guest today is Nataly Huff. Nataly is an executive coach and the founder of Inspire Forward Coaching, where she works with C-suite leaders and high performers using a science meets soul approach. She integrates neuroscience-based methods with heart-centered coaching to help people create success that includes performance, fulfillment, and alignment from the inside out. There is a moment that a lot of high achievers recognize, even if they've never said it out loud. You're doing everything right. You're getting results. People trust you. The work looks impressive from the outside, and inside, something feels tight. Your heart runs too fast for no reason. Your shoulders live near your ears. In this episode, we go deep into the lived experience of high performance. We hear Nataly's story. She begins in Russia during the collapse of the Soviet system, immigrated to the United States as a child, and learned early how much adaptation, self-control, and resilience success can require. That awareness followed her into adulthood, into fast career growth, leadership roles, and environments where competence and composure were rewarded. From the outside, things look solid. We talk about the professional face that many high performers develop, how values quietly shape satisfaction and strain, and how stress often shows up long before we have language for it. This conversation explores what it means to recognize you're climbing the wrong ladder because you're evolving, and how aligning success with who you are changes everything. This episode is about the gap between external success and internal alignment, and the way that gap eventually asks to be addressed. Nataly's story brings language to an experience many people share, living with a professional self that performs, while the whole self waits for permission to be seen. If you've ever thought, I'm capable, I'm respected, I'm achieving, so why do I feel like this? You're in the right place. Welcome, Nataly, to Your Next Success. I'm so thrilled to be talking to you today.
I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. We're going to get into all the amazing things that you do to help people and leaders and all their transformational experience that you do so well and you've done for such a long time. We will get to that, but I'd love to dial it back, like way back. If you could help me understand, where were you born and what was life like for the very earliest version of Nataly?
Oh, okay. We get to tell the whole story. I like it.
The whole story, all the parts that people usually gloss over.
Well, I was born in Russia, born and raised just in a suburb of Moscow. And I lived there until I was 11, at which point in time we packed all of our stuff up and came to the United States. And that was, I don't know how familiar you are with Russian history, but that was an interesting time to be in Russia. It's the very end of the Soviet regime, the Berlin Wall, and then the big revolution in Russia in 91. And all of a sudden, you have like the falling apart of the USSR and the Russia figuring out who they are as a country on their own again. Politics got weird, access to resources got weird. But like you still had to go to school and feed your family and, figure out how to live in life. So my experience back then, was a childhood, right? Like a regular childhood you would see. But I was seeing a transformation of a country at the same time. And we always knew we were going to come to the United States. That was always in the plans. It was just a
Really?
matter of figuring out the when and the how.
So from your earliest memories, you had this concept that this wasn't gonna be your forever place?
Yes, and probably I maybe learned it when I was 6 or 7. And because a lot of my family was going through the transition of coming to the United States as well. And some of the first people who had come, they had to go through the more old school defecting process, which was complicated and terrifying. But for me and our family, we knew that when the time was right, we were going to come to the United States. My mom is a linguist and she speaks Russian, English, French, and German. So she taught me English ever since I was little. So I had some basic foundational kind of language skills. And we knew that it was so that when we come to the United States, I'm not starting from scratch.
Wow. That's what about your father? What did he do?
He was an engineer in Soviet Russia, and then as soon as the revolution came and people were allowed to own things, that because that concept I think a lot of people don't quite realize. Up until the revolution, you own nothing. Everything belongs to the collective. So any sort of private anything is just does not exist. And then all of a sudden, you're allowed to own things.
Mm.
So, at that point in time, my dad started a business and was trying to figure out how to get what is needed in the country into the country.
Mm.
And that was tea, that was slippers, that was jeans at some point because that was the coolest thing you could have is a pair of blue jeans because that did not exist in Russia either. So, he ran a business as soon as he was able to have one.
Wow. And so did you have any siblings at all?
I have an older sister.
How much older is she?
She is 9 years older than me, and actually her path to the United States is even more interesting than mine. So we're Jewish and Soviet Russia and generally Russia at that time, probably now as well. Not exactly friendly to people who are Jewish. Like your passport actually says your ethnicity,
Oh, wow.
which is an odd thing to put in a passport. But, my maiden name is Lifshitz, so very obviously Jewish name. And, the way that you get into universities in Russia is that everybody takes a test to get into university at the same time. And that test is, graded by humans, or at least was at the time. And so while there's certain things that cannot have any subjectivity, like math,
Yeah.
once you get into literature and writing and maybe even some scientific work, some objectivity comes into play. So at that point in time, unless you were bribing some people to get into college with a last name like Lifshitz, you were not going to get into a good school.
Oh, wow.
So my sister graduated high school, and in Russia, you graduate at 16, and applied to schools in America and went to State University of New York at Albany by herself at 16. We weren't
Wow.
ready to move yet, and she went on her own. It's a
Wow.
unbelievable
Fascinating.
feat that
Fascinating, right?
to
Right,
do.
yeah. Now my kids are, almost 17 and almost 20, and it's just like, "Wait, what? Wow." Um,
You remember
but
yourself at
wow.
16? Can you imagine? going to
I
another
mean,
country.
of course, at 16, I thought I knew it all. You know,
But
I
now looking back,
had the ego and the confidence way beyond my actual lived experience. Um, and yeah, I have a sister-in-law who was originally from Poland. She came as an exchange student when I was in high school. Of course, like, she's not thinking she's there to find a husband, and I'm not thinking she's gonna be my sister-in-law. We just became, fast friends, but she was kinda brave, I felt like, and that was just as an exchange student for high school. I can't imagine also being, like, completely
Mhm.
on your own, new country, new everything
You
at
everything. Oh,
16 with your
and
sister.
like college. Like college is not necessarily
Correct.
easy. Freshman year of college is complicated and confusing as it is.
Absolutely. Oh, wow. Okay. So now in your earliest days of Russia, were there any particular I mean, I don't fully understand and comprehend, and as a child, there's hierarchy of needs. Were all your needs met so that you were able to, like, dream and play and find things that you enjoy or not? Like, I really am ignorant. I don't know.
There was a period in time when there's just not stuff in the stores. So even if you had money, it was hard to get access. But again, because my dad owned a business and because actually my grandmother, who was a doctor, had a lot of connections from people that she had just helped, we were never in like actual starving space. But sometimes that meant that on our balcony, over the winter, we would have like a slaughtered lamb that we would
Fr
then use for food and
From balcony to table.
balcony to table. And it was, a huge accomplishment that other people might not have had. So my needs were absolutely met. Scary time, difficult time for sure. But yeah, I was absolutely able to dream. And one of the things that I remember the most is I never really enjoyed playing house ever since I was little. It was like not my cup of tea. But I remember seeing my dad at work, and this was before he had a computer on his desk. So he just had papers and pens, and it was a big desk, and he would work on things, write things, move things around. So I would play business. I would get
Uh-huh.
at my desk where I would do my homework, and I would write things on papers, and I would move them around and pretend I was like this business person doing businessy stuff.
Oh, that's so cool. At what age and stage, and what was your earliest vision of what you thought, "Ah, this is what success is. This is what it would look like."
Um, that's a really good question. I think it was watching my dad, right? Because people would come to him for advice. He would solve problems for whatever's going on in his business. Like he delegated, he was revered in his business. So I guess that kind of seeped into my brain. I didn't translate that into an actual job for a really long time, but I guess I always intrinsically knew that I wanted to be an orchestrator of things and make things happen.
Nice. Okay, so now coming here at it was 11, right? Age 11? And you kinda knew a little bit of English.
Mhm.
And what were some of those first thoughts and memories of, like, this is now your new world?
Well, first of all, the English that we learned in Russia, the English they speak in New York, that was a rough adjustment. I very distinctly remember like our landlord was Italian and spoke with a big Italian accent. And I remember having our landlord speaking to our cable person and us not understanding what either of them are saying, but they're understanding each other really well with their separate accents.
Yeah.
That is a very vivid memory. But yes, you adjust and you adapt. I went into public school. You figure it out because you have to. But one of the things that maybe is even prior to coming to the United States, because we were starting to see some programming come in from the United States at that point in time. We were watching a news program of some sort, and I remember the anchor. with the beautiful, beautiful American smile, just smiling all the time. And I asked my dad, I'm like, why is she smiling? I don't get it. We're not, there's nothing happy happening right now because that's not culturally not what you do.
Yeah.
And he explained to me, like, that's how it is in America. Like, nobody cares about your problems. You come in, you bring your positive attitude, you bring your big smile, and you solve your private problems on your own.
Oh,
And kind of that perception of there's the professional face you put on
yes.
is one that was very deeply ingrained for me for decades.
Mm, interesting. And you first noticed it on the news. Yeah, because yeah, I think culturally, my family has some Polish roots and some Irish roots, but culturally, it's a little more serious and not that they're not happy, but they're just not smiling. Like that's just not the emotion that you visibly.
Smiling is not the default. The
Yeah,
default is
exactly.
neutral. And
Yeah,
if there's a reason to smile, you smile. But if you're smiling without a reason, there's like something.
interesting. Yeah, even in school photos or something, right? Like
Yeah.
class pictures, it's
Look
like,
like,
but then here it's like
all the time.
awesome. Okay, interesting. Okay, so as you got here, were there any particular like school subjects or outside of school things that were fascinating or that you loved doing that you just lost yourself in?
Um, kind of a little bit of everything. I've always loved math and science. I loved reading and writing. So there was a little bit of everything. I never really had good clarity of what I wanted to do with my life. But I was kind of always jealous of people who had that really good vision of here's what I want to do and here's what I want to be. I had this perception of what it would feel like.
And
I
what was that?
hadn't put it in words, but it was that concept of I am orchestrating something, right? I have
Yeah.
people that come to me that I help. I have people that help me that I delegate to. I am kind of the center hub of the things that are happening and that what allows things to happen. Kind of that perception and that feeling was in my mind, but I didn't know what that specifically was. My parents really wanted me to go into pharmacy. They
Hmm.
were sure that that was the direction that was going to allow for most success, partially because science always came easily to me, partially because there's a lot of money in pharmacy, partially because my grandmother was a doctor, my uncle is a doctor. There's a lot of medical in our family. So it, logically kind of makes sense. Pharmacy is absolutely not my thing, as I learned after 2 courses of organic chemistry in college. No, there's 0 chance I wanna do this every day, all day long.
So, as you were in high school trying to figure out what you wanted to do next, you listened to your parents and then what happened? Like, how did you choose where to go for college and what to even start as a course of study?
University of Minnesota, just kinda right here is where I went, again, because it was partially driven by what my parents wanted, partially driven by what I wanted, and it was affordable and convenient in here.
And but you were in New York, but then you got to Minnesota? Like, what was that?
Oh, yes. We started in New York. We were there for a couple of years. New York is hard. It's a great entrance place, but it's hard to find a job. It's hard to build a career, and just the quality of life is very different from what you would find in Minnesota. So, when I finished middle school and I was about to go to high school, and I was really excited because I had gotten into Stuyvesant, which is one of the best high schools in New York. I was going to be going into Manhattan on a train every morning. It was going to be amazing. Um, my parents, they said, we're going to go somewhere else. So my mom had found a job in Minnesota. We moved. I cried on the plane. I thought I'm gonna go to, like, a village in the middle of nowhere because that was my impression of what happens outside of New York City. Um, and so, we ended up in Minnesota, and I ended up really, really loving it. And, it is not a village. It's a really great education system and a really great healthcare system and a really great park system, and just, all in all was really great quality of life. I remember coming into Minnesota, and we were going to a grocery store, and just the aisles in the grocery store, like the width of the aisles, so enormous that I couldn't really understand why there's all this wasted space. And then we were crossing the parking lot, and the cars stopped to let us pass. And I'm like, why are they stopping? What do they want from us? I don't I don't understand what's happening right now. Because again, it's just a very different pace of living, very different quality of life. Because in New York, nobody's going to stop for you, so you just wait for your opportunity to cross, and make sure there's no cars. But here, like, if somebody's pretending to or thinking about crossing the street, people will slow down, let you pass, so that you're safe on the other side, and then go on their merry way. Just these little adjustments were very, very challenging
Interesting.
to
Okay.
adapt to.
So then you graduate high school and University of Minnesota is there. What was your what was your major that you thought you had?
Um, Pre-pharmacy was what I was going into, and I got through a year and a half, 3 semesters, and I really deeply, truly hate it. And this is awful. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I went into communication because that seemed general enough. Um, and it wasn't that I was necessarily shooting for marketing. Was not necessarily shooting for where I ended up, but communication was great. It was at the College of Liberal Arts. I could do it fairly easily. And when I was done, I took my last final. But at that point in time, I already had a job at an advertising agency. And I had moved to the Bay Area because by then I was done with Minnesota. I wanted to live somewhere else. And so I had a job at an advertising agency, took my last final. The next morning I got in a car, drove, and started my professional life.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And how did you select that particular company, that particular job?
Um, I knew the Bay Area was where I wanted to be, so I had been applying for several roles in the Bay Area, and some of them were in the video game industry, some of them were more in kind of deeper technology, and the advertising agency was just what came through, and it seemed like it gave me the opportunity to see more different types of things at the same time. So I was an account coordinator, very, very entry level element, but I got to do a lot of things and I got to see a lot of things through that process. So it was fantastic. This was also 2007, so I got to do it right up until the 2008 crash.
Yeah.
And then, surprise, not a lot of people are spending money on advertising. So there were a lot of
True.
layoffs, and I was part of it.
So had you been to the Bay Area before? Like, how did you know that was where you wanted to be?
It's actually interesting because I met a guy on a trip in Paris that happened to be in the Bay Area.
Interesting. So was that part of your reason why you wanted to be in the Bay Area?
I knew I wanted to leave Minnesota. I was definitely done with that, and there were a couple of places that I was considering, but once I met the guy and once I visited, it just made sense to go there.
Gotcha. Okay. So life was seemingly fun and well settled until all of a sudden economy crashes and it's not, and you're now caught up in a layoff. How was that experience for you?
Scary,
Yeah.
really, really scary. But also, I was young enough to not really be able to translate it into what it could possibly mean, right? Like I'm still making stupid decisions with my money. I am still like, when the layoffs happened, me and a couple of coworkers, we got a bottle of vodka and we played board games to celebrate our misery, right? It was not the best decision, but it's what happened. And then I was lucky. I was able to find a job within a couple of months.
Oh, wow. That's pretty great. Yeah.
And it just so happened that I found a job in the photography industry. This was a service that provided kind of an entry level service for websites and a way to sell photos for professional photographers, which really worked out beautifully. They pretty much only had engineers working at that company. It was a true startup. They needed somebody who can take it from their organic growth that they had just in the forums and photography forums
Yeah.
to be better. The product was great. The product team was amazing. And it was during a time when a lot of people were losing their jobs and using that as an opportunity to follow their dreams to become a professional photographer. Well, that
Interesting.
industry had a boom. We had a product that met that need at that particular time. So we're able to capitalize on that opportunity. And for me, I got to do things and pretty much everything hit
Yeah.
because the market was going in the direction and we had the product that could support it. So I started as a marketing manager, and 8 years later, I had a team of 12. I was the marketing director, and we had 10x growth of our subscription base, and we were acquired by a larger company that was planning to go public. So it was the dream for Silicon Valley startup life, but there was a lot of luck involved as well.
And how did that feel? Like, as you were promoted to different levels within that startup as it grew, were you chasing the promotions? Like, did you want that or it just kind of happened? And then, like, how were you developing as far as your own sense of self and what you truly wanted versus maybe like what the world wanted? Just not leading, just
Yeah.
curious. Yeah.
I recognized that I liked marketing. I liked marketing because it allowed me to make an impact in multiple ways. I liked working with a product that helps people. So that was incredibly satisfying. And I also happened to have a really amazing manager. The CEO of the company was just a fantastic human, really focused on enabling his team to do the things that they need to do and giving people chances to try things. So while in my mind, I knew that I wanted to grow to be a leader, again, that perception of that feeling of being
Yeah.
the hub to the spokes. And I also, at that point in time, kind of set a target for myself that I wanted to be a director by the time I was 30. And I had shared that target with my manager at the time. So it was the collaborative effort, both with him challenging me and supporting me and enabling me. And we're bringing in really fantastic people. And this was also a time where I didn't have any other responsibilities. So I could focus on that growth, and the company was doing well, and we were doing great work for the customers that we had. It was just everything came together beautifully.
And did it feel awesome? Like, did you love your life and your work? Like, was it holistically like you were living that
Yeah,
dream?
it was
Oh,
the
that's
dream,
awesome.
Imagine what your life would be like if your career aligned with who you are, what you do best, and actually fueled the life you want. At Next Success, we support all ages and stages through career transitions, from students exploring majors or careers to job seekers actively searching or reimagining their next move to professionals committed to self-awareness and leadership growth. Stay connected and explore what's possible at nextsuccesscareers.com and follow Next Success Method on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Those good old days that you think back on? It was
Yeah.
when everything comes together and you have exactly what you need for that particular moment in time. And yeah, it was awesome.
And so then what happened?
Then the company got acquired and the magic spell dissipated,
Yeah.
as it tends to do. And it's not that the company that acquired us was doing anything wrong necessarily. They were running a larger business that had corporate needs and corporate processes. So it broke some of the some of the things that were able to be done well because you had people that deeply cared about the product and because you had people that were close to it and weren't necessarily constrained by systems and processes.
Mm.
But that's not necessarily scalable. So what they're doing is they're trying to set it up for scale, right? And that changes things and that changes the culture and that changes the feeling of the work. So a lot of the people who knew the product really well and cared about the product started kind of going on their own way. Which were bringing in new people who didn't care about the product the same way because they didn't see it from its infancy. So that was time for me to leave as well. It's also at that time that my husband and I decided that we wanted to leave the Bay Area and we were going to move to Minnesota. So it was
What brought about that? Like, was he originally from Minnesota?
no, he's
So
California.
was
born and
this
bred.
driven by you? Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Were your parents still there? Like, what was the draw?
His parents are in California, my parents in Minnesota. We would come in the summers, and one of the things that we used to do is we would rent a cabin somewhere far up north next to a lake. And it would usually be somewhere where there's not a lot of cell service, there's no internet, and you truly disconnect. And you just swim and tan and eat and sleep and drink and light a fire. It was just a completely do nothing kind of week.
Like an amazing experience.
Amazing experience. So we would do it for a week every summer. And he started coming with us. And at one point in time, driving back from this, because would we ever think about moving to Minnesota? Yeah, there's plenty of reasons to. The California was changing, the Bay Area was changing, the costs were rising. If we wanted to buy a house, we'd need to think very long and hard about whether or not we also wanted to save for retirement. And then when we came back that next week, we got a notice on our apartment, our tiny 1-bedroom apartment, that they're going to raise our rent 50%.
Oh, wow.
And like, well, we thought it was going to be later, but I guess it's happening now.
Interesting.
So we started the process. It probably took us another year to find where we wanted to live and make sure that we visit in the winter so that
to get a full picture. Yeah. And he still said yes, I guess.
Yeah. And so we ended up moving to Minnesota, and I found my job here, which was also kind of a big change. I was working with a recruiter, and a recruiter encouraged me to apply for a job that I had seen before, but I didn't want to apply for because it wasn't a sexy, fun job. I was going from the photography industry, the tech space, Silicon Valley, and I was joining a 70-year-old hearing aids company.
Impact. Still good impact for the world, right?
Great impact, but like that just doesn't sound fun.
It literally doesn't sound.
It does not. Yes. But the recruiter convinced me to think about the job and to think about the opportunity, which again was incredible. The company had recognized that they were going to need digital marketing in order to grow. And they had secured the buy-in with the board, and they had secured the budget. And they just didn't have anybody who knew how to do digital marketing. So they just wanted to hand the keys over to someone who can build it.
Interesting.
And
you're
I can build.
And then here you are. Dun, dun,
You mean I'd have budget and buy-in, and I can
Right.
just do the things, and there's so many opportunities because there's nothing that already exists. And then I met the team, and then I met the president of Miracle-Ear at the time, who's an incredible woman. Just seriously, that woman can do anything.
That's awesome.
And I was in. And so in joining Miracle-Ear and the following 6 years, I led their digital transformation. I led their CRM transformation. I took on the VP role to help drive the rebrand and the preparation for hearing aids coming to the over-the-counter market. It was a lot of great building work as well. And that's where the experience of, okay, I am the person that people come to with all the questions, and I orchestrate and I make it happen. And I have an impact on my team. I have an impact on the business. America is a franchise, so I have an impact on small business owners, and the end users have a fantastic impact. This is it. This is what I like. At one point in time, my leader gave me feedback that I have the best poker face that he's ever seen. I'm like, yes, that's the American smile.
This is what I've trained for. Isn't that what you want?
Um,
Yeah.
And I very distinctly remember having this conversation, and his feedback was, yeah, that's great. I'm glad that you're completely unflappable, but you might want to consider, you know, bringing in some more vulnerability into the equation so that people don't just want to work with you because you get stuff done, want to work with you because you get it and they can relate and you can kind of build those relationships. And that was the first time that I was really thinking about intentionally building personal relationship in the professional space. It's sometimes it would organically happen, but
Right.
and I think the journey of like recognizing that your professional life and your personal life aren't really separate.
Yes.
Kind of,
Yes. This whole fallacy of like work-life balance as though there was a work me and a home me. And the reality is, while some people say, oh, it should be work-life balance, I'm more like, no, 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 it should be work-life integration.
yeah.
Because you're hired to do a job, but you bring your whole self to work with
Mhm.
all your baggage, with all your likes, dislikes, with all the whatever's going on in the rest of your world that's absolutely influencing how you perform at work. And then your work is influencing how you perform at home. So it's like
Right.
they are connected.
If
Yeah.
you
Okay.
didn't sleep at night because your kid's been sick, you're not going to be your best self at work. And
Right.
if you had a terrible day at work, you're not going to be your best self at home. There's
Yeah.
there's not it's not severance. It's not,
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
it's not how that works.
Yeah. Okay. And so you get this feedback, and were you like open to it and understanding, or were you just like,
But it was
I'm not
scary.
sure.
I
Yeah.
get it. I understand the logic behind it. But what if I become vulnerable and people don't like me?
Mm.
I can
That's such an
be,
important thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can be professional. I can get stuff done. And if people have a problem with my professional self, it's not a reflection on me as a person. It's a reflection on my professional self. And I can adjust my professional self all day long. Totally fine. But if I bring more of my authenticity and my personality and my whole self to work, that's true vulnerability. That's truly being, letting yourself be open to attack and disappointment. And that's terrifying.
It is terrifying. It is. And how did you and freeing, right? But the first thing is like is the terror is what shows, right? Like the what if they don't like me? What if it goes wrong? How did that evolve in you over time? Because I know now you seem incredibly authentic, vulnerable, awesome, and you help others to do the same. Okay, but let's go back to like the initial stages of like dipping your toe into this vulnerability water. Like, what was that like?
It's a lot of therapy and it's a lot of self-work. Like this is not something, actually, no, let me rephrase this. I was gonna say it's not something that you can do alone. I know people who have done it on their own. They have done it through podcasts and listening to audiobooks and kind of downloading guides and doing practice, but that's a much harder and much longer process. I I needed a lot more help than that. I had guides, I had therapists, I had executive coaches to lead me through the process. And one of the defining moments of that process was working to figure out what my values were,
Mhm.
not the values of this professional Natalie,
Yeah.
but my
Yeah.
values. And once I figured that out, all of a sudden, it clicked why certain things were stressing me out, why I felt so emotionally impacted by certain areas, and why I was unhappy even though everything seemed fine,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. dig into that a little bit more. So it's like, yeah, from the outside in, you're having this amazing experience, amazing job. You're rising in the ranks. You have a lot of people reporting to you.
Huh?
Seems like you're seemingly doing amazing work for the benefit of the world and externally successful, but internally starting to question. Take us through that a little bit more. What did
Yeah.
that actually look like? Yeah, feel like.
So before the values work, it was just more of a recognition of like, this is harder than it should be. I am getting stuff done. My campaigns are performing. The company loves me. My team loves me. My team is growing. I'm solving problems. Why am I is my heart constantly racing? Why are my shoulders always up to my ears? Like, why am I always a little bit on edge? And after doing that values work, I recognized that my two primary values cannot be fulfilled in this role.
Hmm. Do you think that was part of your, like, even inkling at the very beginning of like, why would I go to work at this company? Was it
No,
okay?
it was just the evolution of the company, right? When I first joined it, it was, kind of a startup experience in a larger space. So the two values that I found were kindness and impact, as in I need to know that I'm making an impact and I need to
Mm.
know that that impact is good.
Hmm.
And that means the impact that I have on my team and on the organization and on the end user and on the small business owners and on the vendors and all the partners, it needs to be a good impact. Like it needs to be kind. So when I first started, that was absolutely it. I was absolutely able to make an impact because it was just me building this from scratch. And I was absolutely able to do it with kindness because it was still small enough where I could make the decisions.
Hmm.
But as the company grew and the company is integrated into was a multinational organization that was transitioning into becoming a global organization. So they're starting to introduce a lot more synergies, a lot more centralization, a lot more elements of the things that you would need in order to grow. So again, can't fault the organization for doing what they're doing, but
Yeah.
they're taking away my ability to make an impact because I was sitting in steering committees and pre-steering committees and post-steering committees, and I was making PowerPoint slides all day long. And then separately, uh, I couldn't make decisions that I believed to be kind,
Hmm.
right? So once you're working for something that is that large, you're focusing a lot more on the shareholders than you are on your employees, right? And you're focusing a lot more on the overarching large machine of the company than individual humans. Again, this is perfectly normal and perfectly standard,
Yeah.
but that doesn't fit.
But your internal draw of what you're feeling like this isn't it, and what you really wish you were being able to do was no longer being fulfilled. This is the thing that people need to understand. Like, you're allowed to grow and evolve as a human,
Yeah.
and something that was a great decision a few years ago might not be the best decision for who you're becoming. And
Yes.
it's totally okay to question. And in fact, questioning doesn't mean there's something wrong. It means there's something right because you're trying to grow into your next thing that's getting ready for you and the next thing for you. So, like, okay, so I'm so happy that you're starting to recognize this about yourself and what you're truly feeling called to do. And then what happened? Like,
But I moved to another startup at that point in time because I thought the answer was just
uh-huh.
don't work for a
It's,
large
oh,
organization.
I need a new job. That's people's conscious awareness is, this doesn't feel right. I know I need a new job.
And that job was aligned, right? I was
Okay.
able to make an impact and I was able to create a very positive impact, but it was still a job, right?
Uh-huh.
And the job was hard and startup world is hard and the economy was changing and I was still stressed and I was still um there's a particular moment that I talk about a lot. Definitely with my clients, but you might have heard me mention it elsewhere on my social media. I was particular stressful time at that particular role, and I was trying to be a productive member of my family, and I was doing laundry and I was pairing socks. And then the next morning, looking at the socks that I have paired, I recognized that I didn't successfully pair any of the socks.
Oh,
My brain was so tapped out. I was so not present at that moment that I couldn't just cognitively recognize that this sock does not go with this sock.
wow. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing that we don't know. We don't notice though when it's like one little, one little, one little, one little, one little, one little thing, and how that stress, challenge, whatever, then bleeds over into that. I mean, so many times it's not socks that you could physically go check later and be like, ah, but like, okay. And so you realize this next morning, like, dang, I did none of these right. All of these things are not like the other. And so what did that do? How did
That
you approach that?
that meant I needed to look at where I'm spending my energy. Again, that's
Mm,
the other work that I do with my clients all the time. Like, look, you know what your priorities are.
yeah.
You know if how you would want to fill up your cup if you have your cup. What percentage is spent here? What percentage is spent here? What percentage is spent here? What's spent here before things spill over. And then let's talk about look at the reality. Look at your calendar. Look at your
Yeah.
emails. Look at your text messages. Look at how much of your cup is actually filled, 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 filled. And when you look at those discrepancies, you need to start figuring out how to make some of those shifts. And so I would say about 7 months later, me and the startup organization that are going our separate ways. And I started reflecting on, okay, do I want another job? Because in the concept of impact and kindness, the things that I really love to do are growth strategy and talent development.
Mm,
Those are my two things. That's not really a job. Nobody hires you to just do growth strategy and talent development.
yeah.
But I can start my own business to do that. And so that's where I currently am and have been for the last few years is the work I do to help companies grow and the work that I do to help individuals grow.
And so you get to pick and choose what you're called in to do and where you're serving. That's awesome. Okay, so tell a little bit about, yeah, how do people find you, work with you? What kind of company, what kind of challenge, what kind of person, what kind of challenge, and how do you help them through that?
Absolutely. Um, so I have two practices. One is a growth marketing consultancy called Innovate Forward Marketing, and it's innovate-fwd.com. And I work with small to mid-sized businesses, kind of 50 to 200 people, specifically that are in the phase of outgrowing their initial spurt and now figuring out how to scale. Because I've seen that so much in my personal work in so many different industries. And then my coaching practice is Inspire Forward Coaching. It's inspire-forward.com. And that's specifically focused on mid-career professionals. My training is in executive coaching and neuroscience-based coaching. And my focus is really helping people who want to become executives that have gotten to a certain part of the ladder and they need to figure out how to make the next jump, or who have gotten to a certain part of the ladder and they are looking around, they're going, I'm on the wrong ladder.
Yeah,
But
I'm on the wrong ladder and it's leaning on the wrong wall. Yeah.
so those are the people that I usually work with.
Awesome. Okay, so you've had all of this experience over time and the evolution of yourself, your work, your home life. Now, how do you define success for yourself? I'm huge on authentic success, and it's no longer what the world defines and how everything else defines, but like, according to you, what is your version of authentic success that you're realizing in this moment?
So I think authentic success is very specifically that it's authentic and it's personal. So if I was answering this question for others, I would start with what are the things that are important to you?
Yeah.
And how do you define, if you imagine a perfect scenario, how do you define being successful? If you imagine failing at it, what does that look like? And what's the spectrum in between? For me, it is around making sure that I'm able to help foster growth for organizations, for people individually, um, and working with organizations and people who are heart aligned. So if I work with clients that I truly want to succeed, that means I'm doing well. And that's professionally. More holistically is recognizing that I'm a very multifaceted human, so that I'm giving myself space to be very successful in this facet, but also successful in this facet and this facet and this facet. And whether it's relationships or friendships or personal development or art or travel or just sitting with a book next to a fire, I'm if I'm able to give myself the space to pour into every single side of my cup,
That's awesome. Yeah.
that's success.
Oh, I love it. What's next for you as you're envisioning your next X period of time? In your best case scenario, what would you love to happen?
I do this for another 10 years, right? I love the work that I do. I love the impact that I have. I love how the work that I do and how I do it is impacting my daughter's perception of success. And once she's old enough to be out of the house, I have the flexibility to reevaluate yet again and see what's
Yes.
next. Because
Yes.
I don't think this is forever. Know there's going to be a next phase in my life. So what's next is building this phase strong enough to give myself the freedom and flexibility to figure out the next one 10 years down the line.
Oh, I love it. I love it. This has been such a beautiful conversation. I'm absolutely so thankful for you sharing more of your story. If remind people once again, if they'd like to get to know you, if they'd like to follow you, if they'd like to learn more about the work that you do, please remind them how they can go about doing that.
You can always find me on LinkedIn, Nataly Huff, NatallyHuff. And my two businesses are Innovate Forward Marketing, innovate-fwd.com, and Inspire Forward Coaching, inspire-forward.com.
Awesome. Thank you again, Nataly, for all of your wisdom, experience, time, lessons, all of those things. I highly encourage everybody to go ahead and get connected with Nataly. She's an amazing human. And I wish you all
Thank
the
you,
best. Keep
Carolyn.
me in mind if you need help in your chapter moving forward. Happy to help.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. It was wonderful to speak with you.
Nataly, thank you for the depth and honesty of this conversation. I am grateful for your willingness to share both your story and your wisdom, and for the work that you do to help people build success that supports their whole life. Thanks for listening to Your Next Success with Dr. Carolyn Sengel. Remember, authentic success is yours to define and includes aligning your career to support the life you want.